so I trained as a teacher, primary school teacher, for children aged 7 to 11. And I'm the sort of person that didn't want to give up studying. So apart from getting the certificate as it was then, the education certificate for teaching, you could stay on a further year to make it 4 years and do the degree in education. So I stayed on and loved it. I loved reading all the books, looking everything up. And I specialised in art and craft and also geography. And of course we had to do a lot on education as such as well. So that was a lovely, lovely time, especially geography, because we had all these field trips to go on, and we went to very interesting places, and it was fascinating. I mean, we went to a lot of places in Wales, you know, to see the sort of symbols of what the Ice Age had left behind, particular formations of rock. They all had different names. And these lakes that you find high up in the mountains, they used to be where there was the ice and snow coming down into the main valley. So it was really, really interesting. And when I'd finished all my studies, I thought, oh, I'll probably get a teaching job very easily, but I found it very, very difficult at that time, and I wasn't the only one. And I'd been working at Marks and Spencer's, you know, when I was a student in the summer holidays. I came home and at weekends, and I thought, well, I'll just have to ask them if I can have an admin sort of job in their departments. So I did ask, but I wasn't accepted, and unfortunately at the same time a job did come up, and it was in Tottenham, and it was in one of these, you know, really hard areas. And I was standing in for a guy that was ill, and they wanted me for 6 weeks. Anyway, so in those 6 weeks I had to try and manage this class, which was very, very difficult. I didn't get very much support at all, and I was very glad to leave at the end. And then in the next year I did actually manage to get another job, and I stayed in that school for, well, about 18 years really. It was a much different school. It was on the borders between Enfield and Haringey, and the children, most of the children were very, very nice. It's just that a lot of them, the parents, either couldn't or wouldn't support them with their education at home, you know, getting them to read at home, which is so important. You know, that wasn't really on the cards for a lot of the parents to do that. Also, they probably were very tired. With a lot of them did manual jobs, etc. So that was quite difficult. But the children themselves were lovely, and when I was on playground duty, I used to really enjoy it. Some of them used to come up to me and they wanted to hug me and hold hands and all the rest of it. And when a child came up to me and said, Miss so-and-so is, you know, isn't playing by the game, because sometimes they were allowed to play football out there, you know. You know, I went up to them and asked them and explained what they had to do, etc., and they were fine about it. So it was really nice. Of course, you always get the odd child who's, you know, really, really taxing in the classroom, but basically it was lovely. But I'd like to tell you a little anecdotal story of a couple of these children who, when they were in the classroom, they weren't the best behaved. They had very great difficulty concentrating. And anyway, but they turned up trumps. When we went into the television room, we had a special room for watching the educational programmes, and they didn't have chairs, they just had benches that had been taken from the hall that we used for PE. And we had one of those giant TV screens that you had in those days, you know, on wheels, wooden surrounds, you know, and because of my responsibilities, I had to, that was one of my jobs, pushing that every day into the television room and pushing it out into the cupboard and making sure it was locked up. Anyway, this television was all ready to go, And I turned it on one day, and it was a really lovely, bright, sunny day. For some reason, they decided that the blinds needed washing, so they'd taken the blinds down in that room, so you could hardly see what was on the television screen. But, you know, it was okay. But those two boys, they come up to me, and they said, and this was in all innocence, it wasn't staged or anything. They came up to me and said, Miss, we've got a very good idea. Why don't we get up and block sunlight out by standing in front of the window, putting our arms out and putting our legs out, you know, and it was just so, you know, very childlike, very innocent, and I was laughing inside myself, you know, and of course that was one to tell at in the staff room afterwards, because everybody used to come up with lovely things like that had happened, and we all nodded our heads, you know. So we've all had those experiences. So anyway, I just thought that was just so lovely, and it really stood out, you know, in my teaching time, because it was just one of those things which really showed you that, you know, they really had hearts of gold, you know, and they demonstrated it on that day. So anyway, I was in that school for 18 years, and then I thought, oh, this is getting too much for me. Had a problem with my back, and I was off for quite a long time. And I thought, right, I don't think I want to go back to being a whole class teacher, and also I don't want to do full-time work. So I investigated, and there were different roles for teaching English as a second language. So I went on quite a lot of interviews for that, because there were quite a lot of children in the school I'd been at that had, you know, that sort of background anyway. And there were so many in London as such, and I thought to myself, you know, because you could never get enough support in those days, because the percentage of children that needed that support it was just enormous in a lot of the schools that were asking for extra help. So then this job came up in East Hertfordshire, in Hoddesdon, and I didn't realise that I'd actually got an interview for it. I thought, you know, they'd just passed me by. But funnily enough, when I had my leaving due at my first school, there was a telephone call to the headmaster, and he took it, and he came back and he said, you know, that was a school in Hoddesdon, asking if you'd be interested in having an interview. I said, oh yes, all right. Anyway, so I went to the phone, and they explained that they had sent me an interview letter, but I said I'd never received it. I hadn't got it at all, and I just assumed they found somebody else. Well, they had found somebody else, but unfortunately, the person that they found, he had problems with his paperwork. I don't think he could get a visa or something. So they thought they'd give me a chance, seeing as I hadn't had a chance the first time round to have an interview. So off I went, and as I was driving out there, I thought, oh, this is a nice, pleasant area, lots of trees, you know, lots of open spaces, etc., which I like. And I went to the school, and I had this fantastic interview. It just sort of like fell into my lap. All the questions were just so easy to answer. And she said to me, would you like the job, just straight off? So of course I said yes. And she said, you know, out of all the people that we interviewed, you're the best person that we've interviewed. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't believe it, you know, it was just meant to be, sort of thing. Anyway, so I started doing that, and I did it for quite a while, and it was nice, because it was peripatetic. We used to go around to different schools in different areas, and I had so much, you know, spare time. We met up, all the people that did this job, we all met up at the East Herts support group building on Wednesday afternoons. We had what do you call it, a staff meeting, yeah, to get to know what everybody was doing, and also, you know, give each other ideas, etc. And they had everything there, lots of books, lots of papers, lots of pictures for you to use. So yeah, that was very nice. But then in the end, I felt like I was missing that connection with the school, in the sense that when I went round to these schools, I wasn't really, you know, part of them. I was somebody coming in from outside, and so I felt that lack, and I thought, what else can I do? Anyway, then I thought, after another stint of illness, I thought, do you know what, everything turned on its head, and I decided I wanted to help people who were a lot older now, and I went to work at a very close by nursing home. I wasn't a carer, I was an activity coordinator. So in some ways it was a bit like teaching, because you had to prepare what they were going to do, the activities they were going to do. We did a lot of art and craft, we did flower arranging, we did games, you know, lots of different things. And the people that couldn't actually get into the room, because most people were in wheelchairs, and they couldn't get into the room, well, I used to go to them, and I used to do one-to-ones, or I used to work with a table in their own lounge, because each corridor or each wing had its own lounge as well. So that was nice, because I'd liked to feel that, you know, everybody was getting a chance of having a bit of my time, and you know, and me trying to help them to get in, you know, get their minds off their illnesses and get stuck into something and try to enjoy it, that sort of thing. So I did that for a while, and then I decided, now I'm missing the children again. What shall I do? And then I became a nanny. So I found this really lovely agency, and it was very, very easy. All I had to do was meet the children from school, take them home, work with them, make sure they did their homework, give them a snack, do an activity with them, or just let them play, and then wait till their parents came home, and that was lovely. It was really, really nice. And the last one I had was a little girl of 4 years old. She was 4 years old, going on 14. Very, very nice, very well behaved young lady, and loved doing art and craft. So we did that most days, and I only had to do 3 days a week, so that was great as well. Yeah, that's me, really.